So you've probably heard that everyone is leaving California, but here's what most people don't realize. A lot of people are now moving back, especially after chasing things like lower costs and new jobs in other states, even remote work life. Many are returning home, and it's having a huge impact on not just the housing market, but the local communities as well. So right now, I'm gonna break down why so many Californians are coming back despite the high home prices and taxes. We'll talk about who's returning and where they're actually moving from. And of course, we're gonna talk about what this means for buyers, sellers, and investors in San Diego and across the state right now. My name is Nick. I'm a real estate advisor here in San Diego that helps people make a lot smarter decisions when it comes to their real estate goals here in San Diego. But enough about that. Let's dive into why so many are returning to California and what it means for you. Now, I'm sure we've all seen the headlines over the past few years. Everyone is leaving San Diego. But I want to tell it to you straight because that narrative is really starting to shift. And this is something I'm actually seeing firsthand here in San Diego. And even back in 2024, that was our first year we saw a population gain of about 100,000 people. And that's a pretty legit population rebound, especially after several years of decline, through 2020, 2021, and 2022. And what's really wild to me is this new traffic isn't new people moving into California. These are people that left during COVID times, 2020 to 2022, and now they're starting to come back. And I've had several clients just in the past few months who moved to places like Texas or Arizona or Florida during the pandemic, and maybe they were chasing those lower home prices, or they just wanted more space, or maybe just that remote work freedom, but now they're starting to really circle back. And I'm seeing a bit of a mixed demographic for the people returning here to California. I'm seeing everyone from younger families that realize schools, things like healthcare, and just the quality of life and spending time outdoors matter a lot more than just bigger square footage on a house. I'm also seeing a lot of retirees who just miss the coast. They have grandkids here in California and they just want that SoCal lifestyle. And I'm seeing a lot of tech professionals that maybe lived up in the Bay Area and they moved to places like Austin for the tech, or maybe they were just doing total remote work there. Now they're taking on more of like a hybrid or maybe a new role in San Diego or back in the Bay Area. And honestly, most people are saying the same thing. It just wasn't what we thought it would be. And sure, prices in Texas or Florida might be much lower, but when you're used to, walking the beach at sunset, or just not dealing with constant humidity, or not dealing with multiple days or even months of over 100-degree weather, or even just having your support system very close by, it's really hard to replace that. Now, let's break down where people are coming from. And to be even more specific, let's talk about the top returning states. I want to break the data down too to give you a percentage on the inbound moves back to California, with Texas being the first at about 11%. Then we have New York at about 9%. Washington is number 3 at about 8.5%. Then we have Florida at about 7%, and then Nevada at about 6%, especially that Las Vegas area. And honestly, those were some of the most common, we'll call them exit states, during that whole COVID time. And we're seeing that boomerang effect happen right now. And even people just relocating within California, moving from areas like Bay Area or even Orange County down to spots like San Diego, where they're getting a different lifestyle and a little bit more value. That seems pretty important if you ask me, because those aren't just random moves. Those are people who actually left and then discovered, whoa, California is actually the lifestyle that I want. And they're starting to return because of that. And I get calls like that pretty often where people say, Nick, we tried it out of state. We miss San Diego. Can you help us get back? It's very common. And to me, that just shows that the data is very clear that California really isn't dead. In fact, San Diego is one of the top destinations right now for return migration. I mean, people are coming back for things like lifestyle, jobs, weather, family. Even if it does cost more, they're trying to make it happen. But let's break that stuff down even a little bit further. What's actually driving this return migration? Well, for one, it is the jobs here. San Diego is still a top tier job market for industries like biotech, defense, aerospace, and tech. And a lot of companies that went fully remote are now shifting kind of back to that hybrid or in-office setup. And a lot of these workers need to be in the office now 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 times a week. So there's a lot of hubs here like in Sereno Valley or downtown or even the UTC area. Another big reason people are moving back is because of family and community. This one's huge, and I hear this from people time and time again. And after the novelty of moving out of state kind of wears away, it becomes very obvious that being close to family and friends is really important, especially as we get older. I've definitely noticed this with a lot of retirees. Being states away from their friends, or maybe their children, or maybe they're having grandchildren now, being states away just doesn't make any sense for them. And that's bringing a lot of people here to California, especially San Diego. This next one is pretty obvious on why people are moving back, but the lifestyle and climate. Sure, it is a lot more expensive here, but you cannot beat the beaches, the coastal trails, the 70-degree winters, and the access to nature here are just unbeatable. And even people who moved moved to Arizona or Texas or Florida are calling me saying they're tired of it. They are done with 100-degree weather summers. They're done with the higher property taxes in places like Texas where they just keep getting reassessed. They want coastal access, and there's just fewer options for them to do stuff year-round outdoors. Education and healthcare is another huge reason. I mean, there is families with kids that are specifically targeting areas in California with top-tier school districts, which there is a ton, especially here in San Diego. You have Poway Unified School District, San Diego Union, or even San Diego Unified. And depending on where in California, there is some world-class health systems, especially right here in San Diego. You're gonna have Sharp Hospital, Scripps, UCSD Health, and Rady's Children's Hospital. And I really just think people are starting to realize that quality of life really does include things like access to good schools and great healthcare locally. So I think people are basing their decisions a lot better these days, and more so for their long-term being. And even recently, I worked with a family that moved back from Texas. They knew the home prices were gonna be a lot higher. There was no shocker there, but they wanted to find a community that made sense with their budget. And of course, we found that exact community that aligned with what they were looking for, and they got the lifestyle they needed. So if you need help like that, that is what we are here for. Give me a call, shoot me a message anytime. My information is all there down below. We'll build out a game plan and see what realistically makes sense for you and go from there. So where are all these returnees heading? Let's break this down. And yes, this is something that I'm seeing firsthand from getting calls every single week, but the first one being the Bay Area. And there has definitely been a very noticeable wave of return migration to the San Francisco Bay Area, especially from those tech people, you know, people who had previously moved out of state during the pandemic. A lot of them tried living in places like Austin or Denver or even remote parts of the Midwest, thinking remote work was honestly going to be permanent, but now it's not, especially now that companies are leaning back towards that hybrid model, you know, where people have to commute back to the office maybe 2, 3, 4 times a week. You know, a lot of people don't want to do the commute now, or they just have to be back at their office space in the Bay Area. Areas like San Jose or San Francisco, and even some of the other suburbs like Mountain View or Redwood City or even Palo Alto are seeing people come back for proximity to some of those bigger headquarters located in the Bay Area. Southern California is also getting a ton of momentum, especially here in San Diego. Over the past year, we've had a really steady flow of calls, texts, Zooms, emails from people who left during the pandemic and are now ready to come back. And I've noticed a lot of people have left or did leave for affordability, and now they're drawing back for things that are more important, like they're looking to be closer to the family, they want lifestyle, and just more opportunity is seeming to pull people back in. And here's what I'm realistically seeing on the ground right now. A lot of people are drawn to North County, places like San Marcos, Encinitas, Carlsbad. All of these are going to offer great schools. They're going to have newer homes and more space for the money compared to, let's say, coastal Los Angeles. And we're also seeing a lot of people move back to central parts of San Diego, maybe downtown San Diego, or even Point Loma. It just really depends on what their new lifestyle is looking for. Maybe they're looking for walkability, maybe they're looking for those great schools, or maybe they just need to be close to the airport. It all really depends. And even outside of San Diego, there's a lot of people moving back to areas in Orange County, like Costa Mesa or Irvine or even Mission Viejo, because there is a very good blend of schools and safety and just proximity to work. And even parts of Los Angeles, like Santa Monica or Westchester and even Culver City, these places are big magnets for people that work in media or tech or even just entertainment in general. And what's really interesting to me about most people that are returning to California is they are being very intentional this time around. I think that has a lot to do with them, you know, living somewhere else for a while. So now they're really prioritizing kind of what matters most to them. And keep in mind, not everybody moving back to California is just rushing and moving to the beach. A lot of folks out there are really opting for more of those inland hubs, places like Temecula, Marietta, even Clovis, or places just in the Inland Empire. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Your price per square foot is a lot less, you get more space out there, and you still get some really great communities. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about how this return migration is actually panning out in the real estate world and what you should actually know if you're thinking about buying or selling or investing here in California or even San Diego. Now, as more people move back to California, especially some of those more job-centric or coastal markets, expect demand to go up a little bit. And we're already seeing more competition in certain neighborhoods, especially ones with good schools or access to jobs or just strong lifestyle appeal. And even in some of these sleepier areas, more inland, like Fallbrook or Ramona or even Scripps Ranch, we're starting to see more activity even in areas like that because buyers are just expanding their searches. A big challenge going forward will be the inventory here in San Diego. And the real issue is most of the homeowners are sitting on 2.5% to 3% interest rates, and they're not eager to sell one bit. So while demand is somewhat rising, the actual number of homes for sale isn't always keeping up depending on the certain neighborhood. So what that really means is there is going to be competition for the best listings, and overall you're just going to have less choices, especially in that sub $1.2 million price range. This is where you have the most buyers shopping right now. So if you're selling, this can sometimes work in your favor, but if you're buying, you need to have a strategy, and you definitely need to know what's happening in each market, neighborhood by neighborhood that you're buying in. But there is still some good news, because I honestly feel like we are very early on in this return migration cycle, and there still is a lot of value if you know where to look. Especially for buyers right now, a lot of the inland communities like San Marcos, Vista, or Fallbrook, you are still really close to the coast, but prices haven't gotten completely out of hand yet. Or if you're looking for more of an urban lifestyle, there's still some great value in downtown San Diego or Mission Valley, where there's less competition and some really good walkability. Or if you want more of an up and coming suburb, you know, look at Allied Gardens or Otay Ranch, where you're going to have newer builds and some very family friendly layouts that offer some really long-term upside. So let's wrap this up with what it all really means for you, whether you're moving back, or maybe you're looking at California from an investment standpoint, or maybe you're just thinking about packing your bags and leaving California. But if you are thinking about moving back, it's time to plan strategically. There is no such thing as planning too early, because inventory here in San Diego is always on the tighter side, and it's really important to look honestly beyond the headline cities and look for a lot of these hidden gems or areas that still offer value without sacrificing lifestyle. And it's really all about just asking yourself the simple questions. Do you need to be closer to the coast? Do you prefer more space? Do you need great schools? All of these answers are really going to shape the right neighborhood, not just the popular ones for you. And if you're investing, it's really important to watch these migration patterns and know what's coming to these communities, and not just a year, but in 5 to 10 years. What are these developments and areas going to be look like? And watch for where these prices are still very subtle. You know, areas like Vista, Allied Gardens, San Marcos, even parts of South Bay. These are pockets where demand is growing, but the prices really haven't fully caught up yet. And especially if you're selling, there is a lot of opportunity right now. Buyers are out there, especially relocation buyers or people that are moving in from out of state. I can't tell you how many people are actually out there looking. They're just looking for some good lifestyle value, and just make sure your property is priced correctly and you will be fine. So guys, moving back to California is not simple, with everything from rising prices to limited inventory and just choosing the right city for your lifestyle. All this stuff can feel so complicated, and we help people in that exact position every single day, every single week. So if you're in that position and you just need some guidance, shoot me a message. I'd be happy to help. We can sit down, have a one-on-one, and figure out the best plan of action for you and set you up with the right neighborhoods. And I also have another video right here that you might find pretty helpful. Maybe I'll see you there.